The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Ross Coulthart, premium journalist, News Nation expert on conspiracies, UFOs, metaphysics, my friend, and he's my friend. Ross Coulthart, welcome to the other side of midnight. Hi.
G'day, Walter. Lovely to be back with you, sir. I've been gallivanting around, sloshing through the Washington swamp.
That's quite a swamp.
Washington swamp.
I'm surprised
it's a hell of a swamp.
I'm surprised you didn't drown, buddy. Anyway, stage is yours, sir.
Okay, well, I was at the Disclosure Forum, a UAP Disclosure Forum, which was a really fascinating event. It was held in the room where the Watergate hearings were held, where the Iran-Contra hearings were held. It's also the room where they investigated the loss of the Titanic. And so this is the place where we basically investigated what the public think about UAPs and whether or not it's time for full disclosure, full transparency. And by golly, one of the things they revealed, Walter, was nearly 90% of both sides of politics, Republicans and Democrats, want the federal government to release more information about UAPs. And over 70% of respondents believe UAPs, that is, let's call it what they are, alien spacecraft, definitely or likely exist. And they basically revealed, surprise, surprise, that they trust science-led institutions more than they do the federal government to provide credible information on the topic. And it was a really interesting event because I got the opportunity to squeeze the flesh with some of the more senior politicians who've been taking a very high-profile role in this area. And one of them, of course, is Representative Eric Burleson, the Republican from Missouri. And he let slip that one of the things he's discovered with the help of my good friend David Grush, the key UAP whistleblower, is that the MITRE Corporation, MIT's Lincoln Laboratory, has secretly been sitting on an audio tape that has not been revealed for 74 years. It's an audio tape recording of what really went on, a UFO briefing about what happened in the Washington, D.C. flyovers in 1952. What was the U.S. Air Force really seeing? And what's happening now, what I'm very excited about after I've been in Washington, even though I'm still washing myself off afterwards, is the fact that it's quite clear Congress has got the bit between its teeth. They're asking hard questions. They're pushing for answers. And so Representative Eric Burleson's told me and News Nation exclusively that what they're doing is they're pushing for a release under order of the Congress of a reel-to-reel audio tape that's 74 years old, which has full details of what the U.S. Air Force really knew about the Washington, D.C. flyover. And that's significant, because that was an event where massive numbers of craft, and that's exactly what the Air Force described them as, craft, overflew Washington, D.C. And a lot of people often say, if there are aliens, why don't they come and land on the White House lawn? Well, in this case, they damn near did. They flew right over Washington, D.C. They had dogfights with U.S. Air Force fighter pilots, and they caused a lot of mischief over 2 weekends in July of 1952. What else came out of this hearing? Well, there was an enormous amount of interest in the new UAP Science Advisory Council, which has been appointed by the Trump White House, and a new governance board. And Avi Loeb, Professor Avi Loeb, was there. I got to know him pretty well, and they're deadly serious about doing serious scientific investigation. And there's been a lot of controversy about a guy called Michael Shermer, who's a notorious skeptic, being appointed to this advisory council. But as Avi Loeb said to me, he said, Ross, if I can convince a skeptic like Michael Shermer, I can convince the rest of America. And it's interesting because Avi let slip a story that I've heard about before, but he told some of the full details. He basically revealed that he has had a high-level executive from Lockheed Martin visit his private home, and he asked that executive whether there was any truth to these claims about UAP, alien spacecraft retrievals, and whether or not there was a secret reverse engineering program going on in private aerospace. And the way Avi told it, he said that aerospace executive looked at him and said, "It's not wrong." So it was his way of noting that the claims were not denied in that private conversation. Whilst it wasn't a formal corporate admission by Lockheed Martin, I can tell you, my friend, Lockheed Martin is in this up to their neck. And at the same time as we've had this Disclosure Foundation event, the flood of revelations comes. I have taken on Lou Elizondo, long a friend of News Nation, and I hope still to be a friend of mine. But I challenged Lou in a public way in a story I did earlier this week, where I basically asserted that Lou's entry into the public arena was originally at the behest of people in the Pentagon who wanted a controlled disclosure. And that essentially the whole Tom DeLonge to the Stars Academy revelations that go right back to before the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump election campaign in 2016, there was a push by an organization that called itself To the Stars Academy to essentially become a UAP disclosure transparency organization. And I've known for some time that Lou, when he became the front man for that organization, was really, from his background, someone who'd worked inside the legacy program. In fact, he'd worked in a counterintelligence role in the legacy program. Now, Lou hasn't responded to my confronting him with that allegation, but what he has said this week, I think he's sort of opening up a bit more because I've put him on the back foot. He's admitted that he personally handled exotic material recovered from UFO crashes dating right back to the 1940s. And he did mention the 1947 Roswell crash. He says this material was multi-layered. It was engineered at the atomic level with specific isotopes arranged in precise lattice matrix structures that were not manufacturable by human technology, even very doubtful they could do it right now. But he said chemically it resembled everyday materials like polythene or nylon, but it had a precision and a structural complexity that defied conventional human or natural manufacturing. It's been validated by scientists at a private aerospace company. He wouldn't say which one, but he said this aerospace contractor, I suspect it was Lockheed Martin, analysed samples about 4 years ago, and they were only able to replicate it at a tiny macroscopic level for about $1 million, but they estimated that proper replication would cost billions of dollars. Now, Elizondo pushes the line that this is a new discovery, that we're recovering this technology and that we really don't know what to do with it, that it's very complex and that there hasn't been much done with it. And I'm afraid I'm skeptical of that claim, Walter. I actually think that the Pentagon and the intelligence community and sections of private aerospace are hiding highly advanced technological discoveries from the knowledge of the American public. But what they're doing is they're trying to do a controlled disclosure, and this is where I'm taking them on. I don't think it's fair to the American people that they withhold information about propulsion systems, energy systems, and sad to say, weapons systems that frankly could push America into a dominance in the 21st century. And I'm sure they're doing it for what they perceive to be patriotic reasons, but there is now a schism developing, a kind of a rift developing in ufology, where there are people like myself and David Grush, for example, who are pushing for full disclosure. We want to go the full Monty. We want to see all. And then there are sections of the national security establishment, Lou Elizondo principal among them, who are basically saying, we can't reveal that much. Basically, all we know is that we've recovered this material. It's interesting, but we haven't learnt much about it. And I don't believe that's the full story. I think the wool's being pulled over America's eyes. But I think, sadly, those gatekeepers, Walter, they control the narrative for now.
Live from Sydney, Australia, Ross Coulthart with News Nation. Controlled release. Controlled release. I feel the same way, my opinion, about Congressman Tom Burchett. When Burchett was going, where's this stuff? I've seen it. I saw it in a it has to be revealed to the public. I'm like, wait, you're a congressman. Why don't you walk down the hall and bang on some desks? Why are you yelling at us that it should be released? I feel it's same as with Lou Alessandro. I would like to get through one conversation with anybody about the UFOs without hearing the name Lou Alessandro. I believe that Burchett also is part of a controlled release of information.
I actually think you'll. I don't know about Tim Burchett, because look, I'm a fan of Tim. He's a lovely bloke, but I think I always thought congressmen had power, Walter. I was very naive.
Right.
But they really don't. And it's interesting, even to get the permission to ask questions in committee hearings, they have to clear it with the chairperson of the committee. And often the questions they want asked in the Congress don't get asked. But the thing that frustrates me journalistically is I've put witnesses to Congress who have given direct evidence, first-hand evidence, saying, go to this location, open this steel door, and you will find an alien spacecraft. You will find alien bodies. And the problem that we have at the moment is Congress doesn't have the spine. They're all coming into the midterm elections. They're terribly worried about national security because they're being told that war with Iran is not resolved. And the government's kind of muttering national security, national security. And I don't know what that does, but it seems to put politicians into a trance. It stops them from asking the hard questions. And there's a seminal lesson today, Walter, because at the same time as we're asking questions about UAPs, the absolutely delightful and fantastically talented Congresswoman, Republican Anna Paulina Luna, held a hearing into MK Ultra, which was the obscene revelations of the CIA's crimes going right back to the 1950s, 60s and 70s, which were covered up by the CIA. And a lot of the files were put through a shredder. But today, in the hearings before the Congress, Anna Paulina revealed that there were files that had inadvertently been retained, and they revealed the full extent of the criminality of the national security establishment. And a large part of the reason, Walter, why this happened 50 years ago is because Congress didn't do its job. It meekly rolled over and let the intelligence community pull the fluff out of their belly buttons while they lazily scratch their tummy.
That's the only thing you've said that's not surprising. This is Ross Coulthart, News Nation. Ross, how do we see you on TV and online?
You can go to YouTube, my friend, and type reality check Ross Coulthart. You'll find me there. And of course, News Nation is available on all good regional cable news networks. Thank you, Walter.
Our great friend, incredible reporter, journalist Ross Coulthart from News Nation.
Almonte's Key Food, proudly serving communities throughout Brooklyn, Queens, and Long Island for over 30 years. When you shop Key Food, you'll always find fresh products, great weekly specials, and exceptional personalized service. Visit at any of their Key Food stores at 8235 153rd Avenue, Lindenwood, New York, 935 Rosedale Road, Valley Stream, New York, and 6620 Avenue U, Brooklyn, New York.